Seriously, who's blowing up my phone? Oh, yeah. Powerball.
Big news. Powerball now draws 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Play now. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase player claim.
The General Insurance presents Shower Ballads by Shaq.
And I'm gonna keep on loving you, 'cause it's the only thing I wanna do.
Turns out, everyone does sound better in the shower. And it turns out, The General is a quality insurance company that's been saving people money for nearly 60 years.
I just wanna keep on loving you.
For a great low rate and nearly 60 years of quality coverage, make the right call and go with The General.
The General Auto Insurance Services, Inc., an insurance agency, Nashville, Tennessee. Some restrictions apply.
3, 2, 1.
This is the Chargers Unleashed podcast. Here are your hosts, Dan Wolkenstein and Jake Hefner.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, is being brought to you by Charger Bolt Family, UFC Fit in Temecula, Golden Road Brewery, and MyBookie. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And, of course, wherever you digest your weekly podcast. Dan Wolkenstein, how's your heart? How's your emotions? Just 2 short days removed from or 3 days removed from the chaos that was Sunday Night Football.
Man, my heart feels good. My heart is full. Very grateful as we are approaching Thanksgiving. That's for darn sure. I feel good. My voice is back finally after that Sunday night primetime squeal of a game that I had. But no, I'm feeling good. I'm excited about this matchup versus an in-division rival, Denver Broncos. But yeah, off the top, Jake, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I know this is a time to be grateful, time to reflect. I'm grateful for you, grateful for all of our listeners, grateful for the show, and grateful for LAFB. How's your heart, Jake?
My cardiology appointment is next week.
Oh, good.
Normally it would have been this week, given what happened on Sunday Night Football, but of course this is Thanksgiving week, so truncated timetable, couldn't make this week work, so it's pushed to next week, which should see some dramatic results considering what may or may not happen this Sunday versus the Denver Broncos, of course. I'm good, though. I will be wearing stretchy pants during Thanksgiving dinner so that there is room for everything. But I'm ready. It'll be a good day of football. 3 games we get to watch, then we get to look forward to Sunday, and that's obviously what we're here for. Chargers coming off of a huge win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Have to, as much as we had said that last week was a must-week victory, it really seems like we're going to be saying that throughout the duration of the season as it relates to the Chargers in order to keep in contention with the Kansas City Chiefs. But this one, really, we've said this until we're blue in the face since we've been doing this show. The quickest way to get to the playoffs is win your divisional games. And first time that the Chargers are going to be going up against the Denver Broncos in 2021. But on top of that, and more importantly, the Kansas City Chiefs have a bye this week. If the Chargers pull out a victory, they will resume control of the AFC West by a half a game, considering that they have the tiebreaker with the Chiefs from defeating them earlier on this season. So, Dan, a lot to talk about today. I know we're going to get into key matchups in terms of offense, defense, your favorite segment, the bold and the game predictions, my least favorite segment, of course. But where do you want to start?
Man, you mentioned it. This is a huge game. A huge game. So many opportunities for both teams. Broncos fresh off a bye, getting the chance to go up against the Chargers. We get to go 2 Mile High. This is going to be a big test against a very good defense. I say we start with just kind of overall, how about these Chargers, huh? 6-4. And looking at some of the stat lines you have for some of the playmakers on this team, I'm talking like Joey Bosa, I'm talking Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Like, these guys are balling out. Like, I don't think people understand, like, how good these kids are doing. I mean, Herbert's stat line right now, Jake, almost 3,000 yards passing, 200 yards rushing, 24 total touchdowns, just 8 interceptions with the QBR quarterback rating of 98.4. Austin Eckler has 13 touchdowns already. We're only on through 10 games. Like, who does this? Keenan Allen's on pace for 1,400 yards this season. Mike Williams on pace for 12 touchdowns, 1,200 yards himself. And this is probably the biggest surprise of all of these stats for our offense, Jake. Take a guess at who has the highest completion percentage among receivers with at least 10 catches. Or 10 targets, excuse me.
It's Keenan Allen.
Nope.
Mike Williams.
Nope.
Jalen Kite. No.
Nope. Nope. Donald Parham has the highest catch percentage on the entire team. That's higher than Keenan Allen. That's higher than Austin Eckler. Mike Williams, Jared Cook, you name it.
I mean, that number is kind of skewed
among the players with at least 10 targets. Like, I took the people that get a lot of targets.
All right.
So I wasn't taking like Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly when you get 2 catches, whatever. It's fine. It's not that. That's this. And furthermore, Jake, guess who Justin Herbert has the highest quarterback rating when targeting?
Go ahead.
Donald Parham. So if there is one thing, I think I tweeted this out a couple days ago, Chargers struck gold with Donald Parham and need to get him more and more involved. The guy's sure-handed, although he did have a big drop last week, is the most sure-handed on this team and will always gain at least 5 yards, it seems, because the guy has like 5-yard long legs. So overall, like, Chargers offense is doing pretty good. Chargers defense, I know people want to talk about it. People want to talk about like it needing work. Did you know Nazir Adderley has the lowest completion percentage allowed in the entire team? Derwin James, second best. Like, I'll take that. Joey Bosa does Joey Bosa things. I mean, he's leading the defense in pretty much everything. Uchenna Nwosu, I believe, leads the team in quarterback knockdowns, which we'll take. And Kaiser White, the guy that we all talked about, who had a great offseason, leads the team in tackles for loss. Now, there are some negative things we talk about with his defense, but we'll get into that as we kind of go through this preview. But overall, like, when you look at that, right, on offense versus what we're going up against, Teddy Bridgewater, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Freeman, they've got a very good wide receiving core, Noah Fant. Like, they've got a good core aside from the quarterback. And we're going to get into, like, all the specifics. We're going to get into all of the reasons why we think one matchup is going to be better than the other. But on its face value, when you're looking at this game, Jake, in my opinion, strength on strength, weakness on weakness. Chargers offense, Broncos defense, strength on strength. Broncos offense, Chargers defense, weakness on weakness. Both of those are kind of meh at this point, at least statistically. So as we go through these matchups, as we go through this preview, think about, in my opinion, it's going to be which one of those matchups can break more. Is your good going to be better than their good, or is your bad going to be better than their bad? Because there is no strength on weakness, except for a few specific spots within each of these matchups. But overall, it's a fun matchup, interdivision. Love it. And look, we get to go against the Broncos. Possibility of going 3-0 in the AFC West. What?
Oh, Dan.
Are you bringing it down that quickly?
Well, this is what I was going to say, because back to your original statement that you had started off with, saying that people don't realize of what's happening right now. And I would recommend that we amend that just a little bit. I think people fully realize what's taking place here. The problem is that it's so damn inconsistent. Like, you'll have it. We were talking about it on Monday. It's like, you have it. Take that. Learn from that. Implement that game plan in consecutive weeks. And I know every team's different, obviously, but your priorities shouldn't be changing. So it's the Chargers don't like, they're allergic to nice things. You know this. They're allergic to consistency, historically have been. That's what I think people are a little bit timid on. Not that they don't recognize the talent, not that they don't realize the numbers that are being put up and the playmakers that are be making plays, but you still have to say, give me more than just one game in doing it.
Too many ebbs and flows. I agree. Well, let's get into it. Why don't we start with the Chargers offense versus the Broncos defense? And I think there's a lot of fireworks to go off here. And we'll talk about the individual players and all of that kind of stuff. But again, strength on strength. Chargers are in top 10 in so many different categories, including yards per play, passing game, sacks percentage allowed, third down, fourth down percentage. Their offense is humming. But so is the Denver Broncos defense. Fifth in total yards allowed, third in first downs allowed, fourth in scoring percentage. I mean, their rushing defense is okay, 14th. Third in points per game allowed, just 18.3. And their fourth down conversion allowed is just 25%. They've only given up 4 first downs on a fourth down all year long. So, Chargers offense, lots of fireworks. Broncos defense, they've got dudes. Justin Simmons, Pat Surtain. It's gonna be a battle of riches. To be honest,
all what it is. It's gonna forget what you think you know about the Denver Broncos. Throw the record out the window right now. I know Justin Jones had to address it in the media today when people had talked about the comeback win that Drew Lock was able to miraculously pull off last year. And Justin Jones vehemently said that we don't think about that. That was a different scheme. That was a different coach. Yeah. And this is something new that we have going on here. I don't care. Even take last year's games aside. The Denver Broncos always play the Chargers very competitively. And if they had a solid, consistent quarterback, this AFC West right now would be insane if that was the case. But going back to the defense, Dan, yes, there's no Von Miller there. Doesn't matter. See what they did to the Dallas Cowboys offense the week after they gave away Von Miller. Bradley Chubb is set to return this week, I believe. It hasn't officially been announced, but that looks like the path of where that's going. How can you deny what rookie cornerback Patrick Surtain is doing right now? Beast. I think he has 7 passes defended already this season. I think in rookie defensive rookie of the year, I think he's sitting at like 3 or 4 right now. So he's making noise. What's that? We don't need to talk about that guy. And then, sorry, see, you get me off my train of thought there. Justin Simmons is the man of that secondary. He's daring you to test him. He's daring you to test him back there. Mm-hmm. So I'll be surprised to see where he's going to be roaming. I would assume if we go deep that he's going to be shadowing Mike Williams all day long. If we try to run the ball, I mean, again, he's their version of a Derwin James. Maybe not to the multifaceted level that Derwin James is as a player, but he is their version of a Derwin James. He can do a lot of those things. So this is going to be a tough test, Dan. It's going to be a tough test. Your guys in the line, Shelby Harris, Mike Purcell, Draymond Jones, Malik Reed. This ain't going to be no skid. I don't care what the records say. And you're getting the Denver Broncos coming off a bye.
And they blitz like crazy.
And how about this? It's a coach who's very, very familiar with Brandon Staley and his tendencies.
This defense is no joke. Now, I will say, for as much as they pressure and blitz, I think they're 4th most blitz percentage in the NFL at like 33%. So like 1 out of 3 plays are blitzing. But their pressure percentage is just 13th, and they're 27th in quarterback hits. So they're blitzing a ton, but they're not really getting to the quarterback as much as you would expect with that high a blitz percentage. So couple that with the fact that the Chargers offensive line, shocker, can't believe we're talking about this, like is actually doing very well this season, giving up very few sacks. Like that's an area where and we'll talk about this later and go to kind of key matchups and stuff. In my eyes, I feel like Justin Herbert is going to have time. What he does with it, different story. So I think looking at our offense versus their defense, they're not great against the run. I think they're like 23rd in yards per attempt allowed, like 4.4 maybe, I want to say. And the Chargers are actually doing okay in rushing yards, in rushing attempts. So I think we're going to see a heavy dose of RB 1, 2, and 3, depending on who that's going to be. Is that going to be Justin Herbert as RB 2, 1? Is that going to be Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, later Roundtree? Not sure. I do think that's going to be tested. Hopefully go to the left side of the offensive line. And I do think we're going to see a healthy dose of tight end utilization on this one. Pat Surtain scares the heck out of me. So does Justin Simmons. I like our guys, but there are some matchups to be had outside of those two.
Just give me a consistent game plan, please. Give me a consistent game plan. Okay, so we've talked about the Denver Broncos defense here a little bit ad nauseum. Okay, so how do you attack this? What do you do? As you said, Dan, they're not bad. Them speaking of the Denver Broncos defense, they are not bad in terms of rushing defense. Hell of a lot better than the Chargers are. Hey,
yes.
we got better by 20 yards in the last couple of weeks. Instead of being at 165, I think we're down now to 142 in terms of our running defense. So hooray for us. But the Denver Broncos defense right now is giving up just about 110 yards in rushing offense. So I don't know if this is going to be a game that you're going to get a lot of success with the run. Knowing Brandon Staley, he's still going to go to it and talk about his philosophy in the run, setting up the pass and being complementary to one another. But this would be one of those type of games to me where you implement Austin Eckler exactly the same way that you did just a couple of days ago in Pittsburgh. I don't know where the screens had gone prior to this game, but for some reason they just really disappeared. And historically, from a team that has run a lot of screens and where you get Austin Eckler into space. And by the way, you have a 300+ pound bulldozer of a all-pro perennial left tackle that wouldn't mind clearing some lanes for you on that side. So that's how I would be implementing Austin Eckler here. In terms of the receivers goes, to me, I don't care who gets the ball.
Nope.
These are the usual suspects. These are the usual players. If it's Keenan Allen, if it's Mike Williams, hell, if it's Jalen Guyton who has 10 catches for 150 yards, I don't care how you do it. What Justin Herbert did is that he had one of those games where you saw how he manipulated defenses through using his eyes and was able to look people off. He wasn't getting Keenan Allen happy the way that he had gotten over the last couple of weeks and just staring him down and targeting him down on key third down situations. He spread it out everywhere to the open man. So to me, that's the exact same game plan that you have to implement in this. Obviously, you're going to have to protect him with as much as the Denver Broncos blitz in this game. So it's not too much of a different game plan. I would love to see the tight ends get involved in this one. For the love of God, catch the ball, please. But yeah, Dan, I do not really see this as far as offensively and saying, okay, well, how are you going to attack them and their defensive tendencies? I wouldn't see this as too much of a different scenario. You may be actually playing underneath a little bit more, considering what Justin Simmons is going to do and how they're going to implement him. Are they going to keep too high safety the whole game? I don't expect that. And I think that they're actually going to be playing a lot closer to the ball and trying to take away anything short from Justin Herbert and obviously bring the blitz on as much as they can. But yeah, I don't really see much of a different game plan that's coming up for this Sunday.
The one thing that we'll talk about as we kind of get later into the show, when you look at kind of the keys to this game, is going to be, can they sustain drives? Now, the one thing, for as good as this Denver Broncos defense is, they are not good on third downs. They're giving up, I think it's like 44% conversion percentage on third down, which ranks 27th in the NFL. And adversely, Chargers are actually doing pretty good. They rank 6th in the NFL in third down conversion on offense. So that's like good on bad. If that can continue, that is a huge key to success for this team in this game. What happens on third down? On both sides. I know that's kind of a key matchup and key predictor for most games, but in this one, it's strength on weakness in a area that is strength on strength. Within offense versus defense that are both good, there is a subset where one team is very good, one team is very bad. If the Chargers can sustain drives, please stop with the drops. Keep it third down. Don't get to fourth down. As much as we want to talk about fourth and Staley, the Broncos defense is great. I remember I mentioned first and fourth down conversion held at just 25%. Like, I'd rather you do it on third down. Don't worry about fourth down, because fourth down, we're not looking nearly as hot. That's the offense versus defense matchup that I see. You mentioned if they're going to keep it short, if they're going to make us dink and dunk, we have the team for that. I think Keenan Allen is like the best under route runner in the NFL. You got 3 tight ends who can catch it. Mike Williams can body anyone. Austin Eckler can shake anybody. And Justin Herbert can run for first downs if he needs to. So we have the team to win. And this, you hear Brandon Staley talk about like, oh, it's not about them. This is about us. If the Chargers can execute, Chargers should win. Period. I think if you ask both teams, if people, like not the teams, but if people covering the team, if both teams played to their potential, Chargers should win. Will it happen? We'll see. So that's our offense, their defense, good on good. Let's talk about some bad on bad, if we're being frank. Broncos offense, Chargers defense. Jake, I'll let you take this one first.
Okay. Broncos offense. They're actually 20th overall, despite what you may think of their quarterback play. They're actually 20th overall in total defense, 342 yards per game. This is where it's going to get dicey to me. They're 19th in rushing, which that may not sound a lot, but against the Chargers, they could make any mediocre running team look good on any given Sunday. They're 18th in passing, 23rd in scoring offense. 20 points a game is usually what they're averaging. Not that much. Now, you flip it over to the other side, the Chargers defense. Whoo, boy. 32nd still in rushing, 145 yards in rush defense allowed. 5th in passing defense, 209 yards. Again, I think that's a little bit skewed considering how much teams decide to run on us. 27th in scoring defense, giving up 26.5 points per game. Dan, look, say what you will about the Denver Broncos quarterback scenario right now. They have a very, very underrated receiving core.
100%. I agree.
Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant. These guys can make things happen. They orchestrated a comeback on you last year with less of that.
And KJ Hamler.
I didn't even mention KJ Hamler. So this has all the makings. And especially since we just heard that Linval Joseph is not going to be returning for this week because he has obviously been put on the COVID list. You're not going to have Asante Samuel for this game and probably a long while after. Sorry to say that, but it's too risky to have a player this young suffer 2 concussions that close together. And to me, it would be absolute negligence. And from what we've seen from Brandon Staley, to err on the side of caution, he's going to keep him out as long as possible. So, okay. Don't know if Garrett Bowles, tackle for the Denver Broncos, is going to be playing. Obviously, if he wouldn't be, that should give a sizable mismatch for Joey Bosa. So that would definitely assist in the process. The rest of their offensive line is okay. It's not bad. It's been sustainable. It's not the best. So I don't think that you can run the same type of defense that you ran against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, to me, it totally sounds like they're going to rip the playbook like it was from Baltimore, the same way it was from New England, and especially from Melvin Gordon's standpoint. You know that he's just sitting there in Vic Fangio's ears just saying, give me the rock, please, so I can have my revenge game against my former team. So I think they're going to implement the run early and often. Do not sleep, of course, on Javonte Williams. They could be a deadly 1-2 punch as far as a run game goes.
Both of them have over 500 yards.
Your run defense has to perform much like it has the last 2 weeks. Again, not the best. It's been better. So you have to have that replication of play than the 8 weeks prior to that we have watched of this run defense play. Please still keep sprinkling Joey Bosa on the inside. Create some mismatches in there. If you want to put Uchenna Nwosu and Joey Bosa on the same side with Uchenna on the outside and put Joey on the inside, by all means, please do. I don't care.
With White, absolutely.
I would give high percentage that you're going to get pressures, sacks, whatever you want to call it, if you're putting him more inside early and often, please. But, Dan, I think this is going to be a really big test. I would normally say for the run game, and I still think it is, but this secondary is going to be tested. Anybody who's been watching this secondary over the last couple of weeks, I know has not been, has not felt enthusiastic about it. If you want to circle 2 players, that would be the plays of Chris Harris and Tavon Campbell. Tavon Campbell, more specifically over the last 2 games, hasn't had his best games that he's gone up against. Did you see
the play he had? I think it was on Deontay Johnson last week, by the way, where he just kind of like let him run right by him in the crossing pattern. It's like, what are we doing?
It wouldn't surprise me, Dan, if that's the game plan that Denver goes with, where they were saying, like much like we were saying a couple of minutes ago, that the Denver Broncos are going to take away our short game. I think Denver will want to just dink and dunk, make it a short field, run the ball, and much like Pittsburgh was doing, just play keep away. If you sustain these long drives that last 6 or 8 minutes and limit the amount of possessions that Justin Herbert has, that's a good formula. And ultimately, of course, if you can score, that's a good formula to get out in front and possibly win this game. So this secondary is going to be very, very highly tested.
Yeah.
I don't know if Brandon Staley is going to be able to change his defense.
It's going to come down. It's going to come down to. I think it's going to come down to Teddy Bridgewater. If he can get it where it needs to be, Chargers are in trouble. Like if he can rise above what he is, Chargers are in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, like this is historically, at least this season, like the Chargers have gone up against some juggernauts on offense. Like we're talking, I know Kansas City struggle, but we're talking like Dallas Cowboys, the Vikings offense is good, Raiders offense is good. We're talking about the Browns offense, which is good. We're talking about like the Ravens offense, which is good. Like these are all like juggernaut teams on offense. The Broncos aren't that. And that's because of Teddy Bridgewater. That's like the one piece that if they had someone else at quarterback, they would be much better. And when you look at the matchups, right? Like they give up a ton of sacks. I think their offensive line ranks 27th in the NFL in sack percentage. They're 20, I think it's 26th or 28th in third down percentage conversions. Like they're not converting. Their red zone percentage sucks, so like 29th, and they give up 30 sacks in the NFL so far, which is ranked 27th in the NFL. So people are getting to the quarterback. They're not converting third downs. They're not throwing it far, and they're getting blitzed and sacked a bunch. And then look at the Chargers side. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be all peaches and cream here. Chargers rushing defense. Chargers rushing defense still sucks. You mentioned it. They're last in the NFL. They are 31st in the NFL in scoring percentage allowed to opposing offenses at almost 48%. They're actually, to our credit, 14th, much better in blitz percentages. Let's find out who number 32 is. Come on down, Las Vegas Raiders. But Jake, they are 29th in missed tackles. They have 78 missed tackles as a team. 78. To put that in context, the team we're going up against just so happens to be the number one team in terms of missed tackles, only has 44.
What was the amount of our missed tackles again?
78.
I feel like we missed half of that alone in the Minnesota game.
Probably. And it was probably, and half of that was probably on the one Dalvin Cook run. So, look, the Chargers defense isn't great, but the Broncos offense isn't great. And this doesn't, I'm not as worried about this matchup as I am about the other one. They got playmakers, but I don't trust the guy getting it to them. I don't think they're going to be throwing it deep. I just don't. I like our chances if that's what they're trying to do. So when you get into kind of like the keys to the game, right? We got the offense as defense, but we can't forget about the other third of this game, which is special teams, which I think we have to talk about. Got to give credit where credit is due. Chargers fixed their kicking problems, at least so far. Compared to Vizcaino, Dustin Hopkins is better than him in extra point percentage, field goal percentage, and touchback percentages by a lot.
A caller wanted to already erect a stadium for him in front of SoFi. That's how happy people have been with his play.
Over 20% more touchbacks with Dustin Hopkins as your kicker than with Vizcaino. 100% on field goals, 91%, almost 92% on extra points. Only missed one. By the way, Jake, if you think about it, and this is the weird part, this is one of those, like, of course, Chargers, I think, are one of, like, 5 teams that have not had an extra point missed against them yet. And I also think that opposing field goal kickers have the highest percentage against the Chargers than any other team in the NFL.
And you're going to be playing in Mile High this weekend.
Yep. So, and let's just get right to it. Our special teams is not good. Like, it's just not good at all. We were dead last in punt return yards per attempt at like 13 yards per punt return, which is horrible.
What did that tick up like an extra 3 yards when Andre Roberts got that like one good solid return in the Eagles game where he actually took it out to the 40?
No. This is the other way. This is their punt return coverage.
They are
giving up more yards than any team in the NFL for return. And then Andre Roberts, we'll talk about him. He has helped the cause, but still, Chargers ranked 26th and 27th in punt and kick return yards, respectively. That's with Andre Roberts, who has significantly helped. Like, their special teams is just not good, aside from Dustin Hopkins, who has been good. They gotta fix that. Like, they have to. So, well, let's get to it, Jake. Keys to the game. We've gone through their offense, our defense, our offense, their defense.
I thought you were going to pull out the bold predictions already.
We're not there yet. Nope.
I was actually really not ready for that. Okay, so keys to the game. Go ahead, Dan.
So, all right. Let's just go segment by segment. So first one, we talked about the Chargers offense versus their defense. I think we went through all the numbers and all the statistics, but really, again, strength on strength here. So I think one of the keys is, I kind of talked about it earlier, but like you got to have it on the got to have it downs. Chargers third down percentage. Chargers rank 6th in third down percentage on offense. And the Broncos ranks 27th in third down percentage allowed. The Chargers got to keep that trend going. Fourth down. Statistically, analytically, I don't see the Chargers going for it that much, and their success rate wouldn't be that high. You're going up against the best fourth down defense in football. Get your money on third down, on the gotta have it plays. But if you're going to do it on fourth down, you gotta have it. Those third and fourth down plays are huge. And I mentioned it earlier. I think the other key to the game here is you have to move the chains. You gotta keep going on third downs. The Chargers, I think, rank the top 5 in first downs in the NFL per game. But the Broncos are also second fewest in first downs allowed. Again, strength on strength. Like that's huge. If we can bow up, impose our will, sustain longer drives, and stay on the field, I think that is how this team is beaten. They give up third downs, but they don't give up first downs, which is kind of an oxymoronic thing to say. But you got to keep it going and you got to score. If we can do that, I think that's the keys to my victory, at least from our offense to their defense.
Okay. You mentioned it, and this kind of worried me a little bit when I was watching the Pittsburgh game, especially the first drive that Pittsburgh put through defensively. Get off the field. It does not matter if you were going up against Drew Lock this week, Teddy Bridgewater this week, whoever. Get off the field on third down, please. Pittsburgh, especially in that first drive, they converted 4 third downs in that drive that ate up 8 minutes. Thankfully for the Chargers, they only ended up scoring 3 points off of that. But when this defense is out there a lot, especially when their offense doesn't give them any help, they're going to get tired and they're going to give up big chunks of yards. Or God forbid, here comes a late flag that ends up moving the chains even more for the opposing offense. This is going to be a tough test for this defense coming up this week, especially with this nucleus of receivers that the Denver Broncos have. I don't care who's throwing to them. Get off the field on third down. You have to do better at that. Offensively on the other side, Dan, you said it. You have to find a way to creatively attack this defense. You cannot strictly be predictable, one-dimensional. I would hope that they would take what they learned from this offense and what Justin Herbert could do and implement it in this game. I loved the fact that Justin Herbert, if first option wasn't there, second option wasn't there, and he saw a running lane, go. Because that is so demoralizing to opposing defenses. We've had to live it against mobile quarterbacks for years. It's about damn time that we start putting that on opposing teams. So you have to be creative in your play calling. Keep this trend going. Give it a nice sense of balance. Justin Herbert, again, needs to have another game like he did against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, in this one, historically, not always, but historically, Justin Herbert has done very well against teams that choose to blitz him, but it's how they choose to blitz him and how many they're actually running. If Denver's front four can get off and have success pulling stunts, and similar to the way that Baltimore's defense attacked him, similar to the way that the New England Patriots attacked him, hold on to your hats. But Justin Herbert needs to make good decisions. He needs to build on this game from Pittsburgh. And as you said, Dan, score. The best way to take away an opposing team's rushing attack, especially when we're talking about the 36th ranked rushing defense here, get a lead. Get a sizable lead. Make them one-dimensional and make Teddy Bridgewater beat you.
Yeah, and again, we mentioned it earlier, but this Broncos defense blitzes a lot, but they don't get home. Couple that with the fact that the Chargers offense doesn't give up many sacks. The Chargers are 6th best in the NFL in sacks allowed. And the Broncos don't actually get many sacks with how many times they blitz. So Broncos will be blitzing. Herbert will have time. That's a recipe for success for Justin Herbert. 300 yards seems easy, in my opinion. Flipping to the other side, Jake. This is probably something you could say every week. But if we could please just keep their offense boring.
Exactly.
If we can make it where they have to go 12, 15 play drives, have to dink and dunk their entire way, I like our chances of our playmakers being able to disrupt and make plays 1 out of 12 plays. Forced fumble, sack, interception, one of those. But if you give up a 45-yard chunk play to Melvin Gordon or a 60-yard touchdown to Cortland Sutton, you're not going to win those games. Like, that's not how you win. And I know Brandon Staley's defense is kind of predicated on not allowing those big plays, but they've been giving up big plays recently. So they got to limit those. So keep their offense boring, keep them bored, make Teddy Bridgewater beat you. Obviously, interior defensive line play is going to be huge in this game. They got a great rushing attack. Two-headed monster. But honestly, the other part, we kind of talk about this in terms of like making plays. You got to get home. You got to get home. Broncos allow the 27th most sacks in the NFL. Chargers are 10th best in hurry percentage, although they are dead last in missed tackles. Sorry, they have 4th most missed tackles with 78. You cannot keep missing tackles. You got to get home. You have to finish, whether it's a sack, whether it's a tackle for loss. Enough of that. Don't let them get more plays because you're not getting home.
And speaking on that, Dan, just because we're talking about missed tackles and we've talked about how much the secondary is going to be tested this week, Daniel Popper just dropped the latest injury report between the Chargers and the Broncos. So we obviously know everything about Asante Samuel Jr. He's not going to be playing this week. But once again, here comes your secondary depth. Alohi Gilman didn't practice today. Trey Marshall did not practice today. Mark Webb did not practice today. Oh, and Matt Filer was limited in practice today.
Fun.
So that's always a nice little touch. But Tavon Campbell, Mike Davis, both full. We're just going to see how much the depth of this secondary is going to be tested because you really are going into this game shorthanded.
So we've talked about all the stats, talked about the players, talked about matchups, things like that. Are you ready, Jake?
No.
All right, well, I'm going to put you in an uncomfortable situation. Jake, bold and game prediction time. Bold predictions for this game. One offense, one defense. Go.
Oh, man. I was looking at the last game that the Broncos were in against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles ended up winning this game 30-13. Jalen Hurts only completed 16 of his 23 passes, had 55 yards rushing. There's 2 other players that were on this offense that really made a lot of noise. And I'm not talking about Devontae Smith, who ended up catching 2 touchdowns in that game. I'm talking about Jordan Howard and Boston Scott. Both respectively ran for 83 and 81 yards. Pretty damn good. Now, unfortunately for the Chargers, they really are still searching for their number 2 running back behind Austin Eckler. You really haven't found one that has consistently been there. Justin Jackson has shown flashes of that. Larry Roundtree has thrown a little bit of flashes of that, but not much. If the Chargers can turn this into a game where they're succeeding on the ground and winning in the trenches, offensively, I would love, and if what he said was true on Monday as far as every one of his fantasy managers, let's keep the train going. Give me Austin Eckler for over 80 yards rushing and give me 2 touchdowns for Austin Eckler. I don't even think that that's as bold enough to say. I think it's very realistic, actually. So it may not seem as much of a bold prediction to some, but defensively, okay. It feels like it's been a minute since I've seen the Chargers get an interception. Number 33 almost had one in the end zone just a couple weeks ago.
Almost had one last week.
Yep. This time I say he gets it. Derwin James comes down with an INT in this game. Let's say 6 tackles.
Ooh. I think in the INT, I think will be on Noah Fant.
On Noah Fant. Okay, that makes sense.
All right, so I'll say with defense, 3 turnovers by this defense are going to be had. On offense, Justin Herbert might eclipse 400 yards.
Really? I mean, I don't doubt it. This is the bold prediction segment, so I get it.
The reason I say 400 yards for Justin Herbert is because give me a team that wants to blitz Justin Herbert, but doesn't get home. that gives me all kinds of excitement for what the Chargers can do. I know they got Surtain. I know they got Justin Simmons. There's only so many defenders that can guard the guys that we have, and it's a mismatched league. If they want to go up and try to do that against Justin Herbert and not get home, they're screwed. They are screwed. So I'm gonna go 400 yards plus for Herbert.
So just to answer real quick. So you're confident enough that Schofield and Norton are going to be able to handle their own on the right side of the line.
Enough.
And this will not be a repeat of the Dallas game.
Yes. They don't have the rookie. They don't have rookie of the year on their team.
Fair enough.
Game prediction. Final score. Jake, you went against the Chargers last week.
I was almost vindicated in my pick, however.
Almost doesn't count. I think there's a song about that. How about this week, Jake?
Shoulda, woulda, couldas don't matter in the NFL. Yes, I believe I said that. Okay, this week. I'm going to give it to the Chargers this week, and strictly because they have to have it. Are they out of playoff contention if they don't get it? Not necessarily. But in order to keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs, and in a week where they're not playing, as much as they needed it last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they definitely need it this week. It's going to be a game where both teams are hyped up, divisional game. You know that these guys always come out and play each other tough. I'm still going to give it to the Chargers. And I'll give it 27-20. Chargers get the victory at Mile High.
27-20. It's good. That's a good one. Bold prediction. I said 400 yards offense for Justin Herbert. Big game. Chargers win this. They are first place in the AFC West. Tied with the Chiefs, but they have a tiebreaker, so they got to win. Broncos desperate. Need this one, or else they are probably kissing the playoffs goodbye. This is actually one of the games that I'm very excited to see how a Brandon Staley-led team approaches it. Because, they're in the hunt now. And this is we talk about wanting to play your best ball towards the end of the year. Kind of rounding that corner. We're at the time where this is where we have to start hitting our stride. I have faith in Brandon Staley. I have faith in Justin Herbert. I have faith in Derwin James, Joey Bosa. So, Chargers win 30-20. Improved to 7-4. Sitting atop. The AFC West are your Los Angeles Chargers. Jake, huge matchup. How are you feeling about this matchup? Are you excited?
Nervous.
Are you scared?
Of course I'm excited. I'm nervous. And I'll explain my reason for being nervous, not just because this is a divisional game, not just because I think it's going to be a lot closer played than most people would predict. But Dan, the last time that the Chargers had to endure a wacky, wild, very end of the game win, much like it was in Cleveland. Right. But the time before that, we all know was the Cleveland Browns game. And what happened the very next week after you played? I'm fearful of a letdown. That's what I'm fearful of. I need to see a little bit more consistency from Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi in their overall offensive game plan to make me feel a little bit better. Not to say, again, I'm not taking anything away from what they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers because that was brilliant and deserve all the credit in the world for that. But I just need to see a little bit more consistency for how they're going to plan to attack defenses on a weekly basis.
I'm going to ride this hype train. Chargers going to win this game 7-4. I can feel it. It's going to feel so good. Imagine the euphoria.
Oh, there it is.
7-4. We're going to get there. We're going to get there, Bolt fam. Let's have some fun. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Enjoy all of the stuffing, the turkey, the football. And come Sunday, let's bring this one home together as one. Chargers, Broncos, Sunday. Gotta have it game. Let's see what happens. For Jake Hefner, you can find him at Jake T. Hefner on Twitter, myself at Chargers Homer on Twitter. Again, follow, like, subscribe to us on YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Chargers Unleashed. We will talk to you next time after the Chargers and Broncos game. Hopefully it's a win. Please, for the love of God, be a win. Jake, thankful for you. Thankful for LAFB. Thankful for all of you guys listening and tuning in. And we'll talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed.
Seriously, who's blowing up my phone? Oh, yeah. Powerball.
Big news. Powerball now draws 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Play now. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase player claim.
Spring it on with 40 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. Matching styles for the family are on sale too. Shop it all through April 12th.